Hey everyone, Garrett from On Point here. Thanks for coming back to the channel. If this is your first time ever seeing any of my videos, be sure to hit that subscribe button along with the bell icon so you never miss any of the future content that I have uploading. And then also, we love getting feedback, thumbs up, thumbs down, comments. Let us know what you want to see. So we're always uploading content that you're interested in. So with no further ado, this is a day 6 arrow review. We're going to get into the process and the arrow build right now. Alright guys, so let's go into some specs for the day 6 arrow, the 350 spine that I'm shooting here. So they are micro in diameter. They're coming in at a 0.245 outside diameter and a 0.165 inside diameter. So if that tells you anything about the arrow, it's got a really thick wall, and basically the GPI is 10.2 for an arrow like this being that small. That's how they're getting the weight up, is just making a really thick walled arrow, which I don't mind. I really do like that. That just builds the durability of the arrow, makes it a really tough arrow. But that's something that I personally like, is having that thick wall there. They're 10.2 GPI, 0.001 straightness, but the spine consistency with these things are supposed to be through the roof. They're supposed to be very high quality, and the price point for these things, without veins and stuff, it does come with the components. About 190 to 195 bucks, but depending on where your spines at and what you're buying with them. But 190 bucks, you can get these arrows with the components and stuff. And so I'll be building mine with the stainless steel centric 100 grain outsert with the sleeve. And so just to go over this real quick, so basically what you have is an outsert. You have the part that goes into the arrow here, which glues in, and then you have the actual insert or outsert part here with the sleeve that goes over it. And I think the reason they did that is because I'm a big fan of the footers, the collars, the sleeves, whatever you want to call them, the impact collars. You know, this creates a lever point for inside, and this has been the Achilles heel kind of a insert, a hidden insert especially, where it kind of creates this lever point. It would snap off, and so they got ahead of that and they put this sleeve over it that screws onto that, and basically kind of shored up and definitely strengthened the front of their arrow up, which I really appreciate. They did that from day one, so they were thinking ahead with that. These are 100 grains, and this part is stainless steel, so it's really strong. The ones that I use right now for my access footers, those are aluminum. So these would probably be a little bit stronger, but still, even aluminum footers are super strong. So I imagine these would be pretty darn tough as well, or even tougher. But so outside of that, what I'm going to do with this arrow build is I'm going to spin test them, but I'm not going to cut according to the spin test. I told Brian, with the cost of the arrows and them being a premium arrow, I feel like when folks are buying these, they're buying these with the expectation of really high quality. And Brian does a lot of the front end work for it. He spin tests every single one of these, and if you order them, he'll cut the wobble out if there is any wobble. He'll cut them out when he sends them, before he even sends them to you. And so I'm going to build these very lazily. So I'm going to basically just cut the front end off of it. I'm not going to knock tune any of them. I'm going to put my wraps on here, fletch them, and then I'm going to take them straight out to the range, and I'm going to shoot broadheads with them, because I feel if you're buying these arrows, you're expecting the quality, and they should tune up really easily. I'm a big fan of spine consistency. I think that's a huge factor in broadheads, and Brian tells me that these have a really great spine consistency, and obviously the straightness is 0.001, so these should tune up really easily. I'm expecting them to. So I'll be using some really fast drying glue, and that's just to speed up the video and the process. One thing that I do really like, and this is just a personal opinion of mine, is that they're using Easton epoxy. As you can see, it has his logo and stuff on it, but it's the same stuff that Easton uses, and I've had really good success with this epoxy. It's super strong, and they're using that same stuff. So really happy with this, and I'm glad to see that they're using this stuff when they ship these to you. So this is the spinning test, and basically just spinning them here. Don't see any wobble on that end. We'll switch ends on the knock end. Oop.
don't see any wobbles, and I've done that with I've done it with every single arrow, and they pretty much all look identical. Every single one of them spins fantastic.
So I only spun one arrow on video, but I spun them all, and they look great. They all spun great. It's kind of funny because Brian's already done all that at his shop here before he even sent them to me, like he does every single arrow, which I still find is pretty cool. But we're going to go ahead and head to Waldron's. I'm not doing any knock tuning. I'm just cutting the end off of the arrow like most shops would, and then we're going to fletch them and basically just go shoot broadheads and see how they do. So let's go ahead and head to Waldron's. Alright guys, so what I've done here is I'm spun test all the arrows on both sides, checking for any straightness defects in the arrow full length. Didn't really find anything. So what I'm going to do, typically when I'm being really picky on an arrow, I'm going to cut off at both ends. I'm going to find the wobble, I'm going to cut it out, and I'm going to get the most bang for my buck when I'm building an arrow. So with this, since these are premium arrows, I already told Brian I'm going to be a little bit less critical on the building aspect because I'm going to trust that the quality is in the arrow, and I'm just going to cut off from the front. I'm not going to, even if there is any imperfections, which I only spun 3 of them after I found out that he spin tests all of them by hand personally. I'm just going to cut off the front of each arrow like 99% of people do out there, and then just build them. So we're going to go ahead and get started here. Alright guys, so I just got done cutting the arrows to length from the beginning of the nock where the arrow actually ends to the end of the arrow is 27¼ inches, and I'm just gonna see what the tolerances is after I have cut them. So just the arrow, that's 283.8, 285.8, 283.4, 284.2, 285. So they're all within 2 grains of each other. 284.6, and I haven't cleaned the interior of them and if there's any excess carbon on the interior of them or anything. But yeah, they're all easily within 2 grains of each other. So haven't weighed the components all yet, but I'll weigh the components as well, and then just throughout the process to see what the tolerance is for actual weight and grains, and just really see what the quality is here. So far, like I said, I've spun tested them. I've now cut them to 27¼ inch. The actual arrow, not including the knock, and I haven't put the inserts in them yet. But yeah, so we're getting there. Now it's time to put the actual components in, so we'll weigh those real quick and then move ahead. Alright guys, so I'm going to weigh my first 3 arrows and just see what the tolerances are between the first 3 that I put together. That's 384.2. 385. 385. So pretty tight tolerances, actually 385 on the money. So we're talking within less than a grain of 3 arrows together. And you can also switch these parts out and then also get even more tolerance as you're just kind of mixing and matching, trying to find the arrows that'll get the tolerances even less. Alright guys, so the final part of the review for the day 6 arrows, all I'm going to do is just shoot a couple broadheads downrange, and to be fair, I've got different vane configurations, because these arrows have been shooting so well I decided to use these arrows for my vane tests. But I've already shot 5 different types of broadheads with this arrow right here. Nope, this arrow right here, the 3 fletch. That other one was a 4. And it's spit out every single arrow pretty much in a 2-inch orange dot out to 30 yards. At the range, they were all easily inside the dot at 20, and it didn't really matter what type of broadhead it was. That says a lot about the tune of the bow, but that also says a lot about the arrow, because the arrows that I have tested with broadheads for day 6 have all flown really well without any knock tuning or anything like that. So overall, the arrow weights have been really consistent throughout the arrow build, all within easy of 2 grains. And right now I'm sitting about 535 grains overall, with a 125 grain head cut to 27¼ inches from the beginning of the knock to the end of the arrow. So let's go ahead and just show you a quick, hopefully a bullseye on this orange dot down here, and then we'll wrap up the video. So
So I've shot the Hellraisers a little bit. I put back on a Magnus Black Hornet, and pretty big blade, and with steep bleeder. So I figured this would be a really good broadhead to see if it shoots well. I've already shot it. I know it does, but just for the video purposes, it would be nice to show that this broadhead hits on. But now these arrows, my regular hunting arrows, these arrows are about 90 grains heavier than my regular hunting arrow. So I'm going to shoot it for actually 34 yards instead of 30, and that should hit pretty on. Yeah, I just blew my orange sticker off the target. We'll go out there and take a look at it real quick though. Alright guys, so obviously the broadhead's a little high in the bullseye, but the orange paper's cut, so it was probably about like that, because it was above that little chunk right here. So yeah, I hit the top of the bullseye, but again, I'm aiming 4 yards over 30 because these arrows are a little heavier, and I knew it was about 33, 34 yards when I was holding earlier when I was hitting. So that's not the arrow, that's just me dialing an extra yard, and real happy with the way these arrows are flying. So in summary, I guess my thing is, you know, with these higher end arrows, I did less work, because if I'm paying that money for it in a more expensive arrow, I expect less work on my end to get them to shoot. And so I didn't knock tune like I did with my Axis. I didn't cut off the ends of any wobble if there was any, and I didn't really find any. Turns out Brian spin tests every single arrow that he sells personally. Another thing is with all that, without all that work, that really saves me time. I'm a busy guy, and to just come out here and basically build the arrow and then come out here with broadheads and be able to do this, to me that shows the quality of the arrow. For me, it's spine consistency, and the straightness is great, you know, 0.001, but all the arrows I've shot have hit pretty much dead on. I mean, they're within my error of accuracy. So in summary, do the more expensive arrows from day 6, because they're a little bit more than, well, they're quite a bit more than my Axis. It cuts down on my tuning time. They hit hard because they're heavier. The thick wall makes them really durable. The component system is pretty solid. I would go with the steel component system over the aluminum. The only thing I didn't really care for were the vanes, and that's because I don't have the right adhesive for the vanes. They were AAE hybrids, I believe, and you got to use like an AAE Bond Max or Max Bond or something like that, and I didn't have that, and that's why the Blazers are on here. So if you do get the arrows, make sure you get the right fletching glue and adhesive or adhesive accelerant with them. But outside of that, I have no complaints. I mean, the price that you're paying for a more easily tunable, very durable, really accurate arrow. So the price point, I believe they come in about $200 a dozen. But yeah, really happy with these. Would I hunt with these? Absolutely. 535 grains is up from 457 from what I regularly shoot. So turned out to be a really good review, and I kind of have my doubts not having the knock tune. I was coming out here to kind of expose a little bit of maybe any inconsistencies out here, and really they shot great. So as always guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.